It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it, caught, touchdown, did he get it?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on into another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, talking about what's happening today throughout the sports world. And as always, love to have you chime in and join in the program as well. Full Court Press text line is open, 435-339-0321, if you want to chime in. A couple different topics we're going to get through today. We'll hear from Blake Anderson how things are going for Utah State football. Stick around. We'll hear from him a little bit later on in the program. Spring football began yesterday. Jason ran up to talk to Coach and get some observations. He is going to be there again today. With the nicer weather today, practices are being held in Maverick Stadium. So if you want to go watch Utah State football today, you can. They're going to be practicing outside until 6 o'clock. We'll actually check in with Jason live there from the arena, just give some observations for what he's seeing, but also discuss some other topics. We'll talk about some other news throughout the Mountain West Conference. Some Utah State athletes are being honored and recognized, opportunity to compete at a very high level for them. And very busy week for spring sports, but the weather's still not very conducive for some of these sports. So really feel for some of these athletes that are playing baseball and softball, golf. Like what? Yeah, I feel bad. This is almost like the COVID year all over again, where your spring season is being taken from you at no fault of your own. Now, I know some of them are trying to find games outside of the area, either along the Wasatch Front or going to tournaments down in southern Utah. But there's supposed to be games played this week on some of these fields, and those fields are still not ready as we get into late March. And I don't think they're going to be ready this week with more rain and snow in our forecast. So I really feel for you. I feel bad. But a couple things to get through off the top. Just want to make sure I mention this. This came through Utah State actually yesterday, but we didn't have a chance to get to it. But some news from Utah State gymnastics. Brianna Brooks and Sophie Sullivan heading to Pittsburgh, and they're going to be competing there as individuals at the NCAA Regional Championships. You know, gymnastics is one of those unique sports where you have a team, but everybody competes in different disciplines. Some will compete in an all-around. But when it comes to, your whole team can qualify to go and continue on in postseason competition. But you can also qualify as an individual to go and continue to compete. So very different from other sports. Like you wouldn't have in football saying like, well, your wide receiver caught so many catches for so many yards, so he's going to have the opportunity to continue to compete in the postseason. Or in basketball, you had a great three-point shooter, and individually he's going to go and compete. It's very different for gymnastics. But congratulations still for Brianna Brooks and Sophie Sullivan. And so Brooks, she qualified on the bars, and Sullivan qualified on the beam. So they will be in session one of the second round of what will be taking place in the Pittsburgh Regional. That's going to be at the Peterson Events Center, and really a great opportunity for them to compete and participate in these events at the next level. And we've seen this before where individuals, or maybe the team doesn't necessarily qualify enough, but the Aggies have developed a pretty good history here recently of sending some of their individual gymnastics athletes on to deeper opportunities and more opportunities at the national level to continue to compete. So Brooks, she's a native of Las Vegas. Sullivan is from Manhattan Beach, California. So they're continuing to compete. So best of luck to them. We'll keep an eye on that and let you know how things go. But great honor and recognition for them and their individual seasons as Utah State Gymnastics has some opportunities for some of their athletes to keep competing and keep going on. Also, other big news, Utah Jazz. Boy, I may have to revise some of the things that I was talking about at the end of the show last night, wondering if the Jazz could even get 5 wins out of the remaining 12. But gosh, out of their last 2, they've beaten the number 2 team in the East and the number 2 team in the West. So who am I to not give the Jazz a little bit more credit? I don't think that it's going to necessarily totally flip from maybe 5 and 7 closeout of the regular season to a 7-5. But gosh, gotta think that they're gonna maybe pick up a few more wins than that. They might still be in the hunt for a playoff spot. Looking at the standings today, after all those games concluded last night, Utah is back in the playoffs. There's a 3-way tie between the Jazz, the Wolves, and the Thunder. But because of tiebreakers, Utah is in the 10th position, with Minnesota in the 8th spot, Oklahoma City in the 9th. Jazz are just a half game behind Dallas in the 7th, and a game behind Golden State, who are in the 6th position. So it's still very, very crazy, but also just a half a game from being totally out of the playoffs, or a full game like New Orleans. So it's still very, very tight in the NBA, just bonkers. I don't remember a season in which there were so many teams so closely situated with among each other, and look where they are in the standings, and how close they are. Every game matters with just a few more weeks to go. Golden State did break their 11-game losing streak last night. They beat Houston. Dallas has had a few little injury issues here and there. Minnesota, they were dropping, but then they had a big win for them on the road over New York, despite a monster game from a couple of the New York Knicks. Julius Randle had a huge 50-plus point game output, but it was in a loss. And Oklahoma City and Utah kind of in a similar situation where younger players, not really big stars on the roster, even though Lauri Markkanen made the All-Star game. But I don't think you can look at either roster and say, yeah, there's a star on that team, at least not a perennial star. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is definitely a star in this league and how he plays. But those are 2 teams mostly made up of just a bunch of random dudes who you may not really recognize, or certainly not perennial all-stars or all-NBA, or guys that are part of big highlight packages that you might see on SportsCenter in the evening. But they're still very close to each other. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The Lakers are definitely still in the hunt. New Orleans seems to be slipping further out of position, but they're still not that far behind, definitely within range. But it's crazy. As close as it is, New Orleans and L.A. could be in the playoffs, and Golden State could be out, just as close as things are. Not really sure that one team has necessarily an easier path over another. When you look at how they're going to close things out, it still have to play some pretty tough competition. But last night for the Jazz, this was a team that just came out really, really hot against the Sacramento Kings, a team that had had a 7-game road winning streak going, and Jazz just came out on fire, played well in the second quarter, but gave it all up in the third. Sacramento came back, tied the game, had opportunities to take the lead and take control of the game. They had totally seized momentum. But you have to give a lot of credit to Coach Will Hardy for some of these other players on this Jazz roster for finding ways to make it work and pulling out the victory and making big shots down the stretch when it mattered, like this one from Kelly Olynyk.
Done. Skip pass. Olynyk. Right side three. Pow! 121, 118. The exact play they worked on in shoot-around today.
I mean, I know Coach Brown for Sacramento, he's probably the shoo-in for the Coach of the Year, considering where Sacramento is and where they've been. But, boy, I would think that Will Hardy has to receive strong consideration for what he's done with this roster. A bunch of totally blown up roster. The start of the year, they were the hottest team in the NBA for the first couple of weeks. And then it's going to come back down to earth a little bit, but still produce some good players and break up the roster even more at the trade deadline. And they're still in the hunt and still finding ways to win games against some of the best teams in the NBA. So, boy, you've got to give Will Hardy some consideration as Coach of the Year for the NBA. I'm pretty confident it's probably going to go to Coach Brown with the Kings, and suddenly I'm skipping on his first name. But when I look across the NBA landscape and who would be in consideration, maybe Malone, Coach Malone in Denver. But I think Sacramento and kind of the strides that program has made this year has to be the front runner. But if there's he's got to be 1A, but if there's a 1B, it should be Will Hardy and what he's doing with this group of guys. Because last night, just another great illustration of what he's getting out of his players and how he's motivating them and just the skill development that's happening in Utah. Ochai Agbaji at a career high, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block. He had a monster game. And Aduko Azubuike, he comes in off the bench. He has a monster game, 13 points, 8 boards, an assist, a steal, and a block. A guy that had long been forgotten on the Jazz roster, but because of injuries and rotations that are different, he kind of gets thrust into an opportunity. And, man, guys out there like, why isn't this guy playing more? So 13 points for Azubuike. Dunn continues to play really, really well. Had a double-double for the Jazz last night off the bench. 18 points, 10 assists, a steal, and a block. Just a bunch of guys that were forgotten or you just overlooked. And Coach Will Hardy and his staff, it's not just all him. Some of these guys are holdovers from Quinn Snyder, but this staff is doing a remarkable job continuing to get a lot out of their guys. Kelly Olynyk had a huge game. We just heard the clip from him. He almost got a triple-double, 19 points, 10 boards, 8 assists. Just crazy. And there was no Lauri Markkanen last night, no Jordan Clarkson, no Colin Sexton, and they still get that outcome, beating a very good Sacramento Kings team 128-120, especially after giving up all the momentum and still finding a way to hang in there and make great plays down the stretch where other maybe younger, inexperienced teams would have folded under that kind of a pressure. But the Jazz have played the Kings well in their other games that they've played them, and they're going to have to play them one more time before the season is over. Utah will face Sacramento again coming up on it'll be a road game, but they'll be at Sacramento on Saturday, so not that far from here. They'll be later on this week. Jazz have Portland coming into town tomorrow, Milwaukee on Friday, and then they get on a plane and fly to Sacramento for a game Saturday night. But it's not an easy path for the Jazz at all, with one playoff-bound team after another, Portland notwithstanding. But Milwaukee, Sacramento, Phoenix, maybe a bit of a breather against San Antonio, but the Jazz have struggled against the Spurs in the couple times that they've met them this year. Boston to make the return trip to Boston. They play at Brooklyn, who's trending down, but still, so it's a road game there, and they're still fighting for playoff positioning in the Eastern Conference. The Lakers are trying to make the playoffs. Oklahoma City is trying to make the playoffs. Denver is the top team in the West, and then the Lakers once again. So wins are going to be tough to come by. The Jazz will probably not be favored in very many of these games, but boy, you have to give credit to how they're finding ways to win in different ways with different lineups. Very, very impressed with this coaching staff, and this team just refuses to lose and refuses to back down. So, really, is it's a great scenario, unless we get to a position where we realize in the NBA draft later this summer, when a prospect turns out to be a great player who could have gone to Utah if they would have lost another game or two. That might sting a bit here, but this is a team that's developing great players and finding ways to win with what they have. And that gives me great confidence with what this team might look like with more established players. And you have to look at the core of this team going forward. Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, Ochai Agbaji, all those guys are young. And you've got Talon Horton-Tucker, who's also very young. So there's a great young core here who's finding ways to win, be competitive, play meaningful basketball, and with still opportunities to add to that roster with draft picks, free agency. They'll have money to spend this upcoming summer. They may be able to use some of these guys they're developing in certain trade packages to get trade for the player that they want. So Utah really is in a very good position with now 11 games left in the regular season. But I don't know. I'd love to get your thoughts on the Jazz as they finish out the regular season with only a couple of games left, couple of weeks left. 435-339-0321. Certainly keeping an eye on what's going on with Utah State gymnastics this week as well. Great opportunities for them to compete on the national stage with Sophie Sullivan and Brianna Brooks competing as individuals, just alone on the beam and the bars, as they'll be in Pittsburgh for the NCAA Regional Championships. If they continue to perform well, then they will advance opportunities to get national recognition in what they do. And a little bit later on, too, we're going to be talking about what's going on with Wyoming, their basketball program. We talked about a mass exodus that's underway. Well, we got news today about another player who's put his name in the portal, and just a crazy turn of events for Wyoming, the team that was the odds-on favorite to be the top team in the Mountain West, and they are a shell of their former selves, and that's being generous. And so really kind of frustrating, I would think. Very sad to see what's going on with Wyoming. So we'll get into that. Jason Walker at the Utah State football practice, which is open today because there is nice weather. So they will be outside. We'll be checking in with him. World Baseball Classic also going on. The championship is taking place tonight, and it'll be on FS1, 5 o'clock. Games being played in Miami, United States versus Japan. This has been fun. I know it's had its own fair share of controversy with the Mets. One of their starting pitchers got hurt early on in this thing, but it's been really fun watching these players get really excited to play for their country, to play meaningful baseball, and for some of these guys, even on Team USA, the United States, playing meaningful baseball that they don't get to play in the fall. So this is the most meaningful baseball that they've been able to play in quite some time. So and that Japanese team, that's a great team. Really well-rounded, great pitching, solid hitting as well. So this, I think, will be a really fun World Baseball Classic Championship coming up later on today. 5 o'clock start on FS1 for those who want to tune in. Quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. When we come back, we'll try to touch base with Jason Walker, who's there at the Utah State football practice, some of his observations, thoughts about what's going on in the Mountain West Conference. For basketball, he had a chance to talk to Coach Anderson yesterday. We'll get to more of Coach Anderson's comments next hour, but some of his observations of what's going on with spring football as well. So it's coming up here on the Full Court Press. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, 1069thefan.com, and the 1069 The Fan mobile app.
Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning is a 2-time gold medalist in the Best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They thank you for your support and vote of confidence in their company. They also would appreciate your vote this year in the 2023 Best of Northern Utah competition. To find a quick link to vote for them, go to advancedheating-ac.com. That's advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. Life is good. Life at My Mattress is good too. Why might I say that? Because today is a good day to slay a Goliath. The other day I went into a mattress store here in Logan that has 2,500 stores across the country. I'd say that's a Goliath. We were 20% less expensive on every bed that we both offer. We may not have 2,500 stores, but we are number one in Cache Valley. Better product and better prices. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Power outages can affect our lives from minor inconveniences to health and safety concerns. Golden Spike Electric and Generac generators are here to help. Get a free 10-year extended warranty when your Generac is installed by Golden Spike Electric. That's right, Golden Spike Electric and Generac generators offers a free 10-year extended warranty with all orders placed by April 16th. That's a savings of over $1,000. Call today to schedule your free in-home assessment online at gsegenerators.com. Golden Spike Electric and Generac automatic standby generators. Power you can count on.
This is Two Pros and a Cup of Joe.
We're getting back into it. You alluded, LeVar, to the pettiness between Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll yesterday at the Combine in Indianapolis was asked about that report.
With the guys that I've coached, that I'm always going to hang with them, and I'm never going to leave them.
What? Two Pros, LeVar Arrington, Brady Quinn, and a Cup of Joe, Jonas Knox.
Weekday mornings from 4 to 7 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
This is Nate Lamson with Valley Office Systems, your home team when local matters. Valley Office Systems is your local provider for all things office, copiers, printers, furniture, and document management. Proudly serving Cache Valley since 2007. Visit valleyofficesystems.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday at the Eccles Ice Arena. A lot of vendors there and can help you with various different things going on with your home or your garden. And spring will come. It's been a little delayed, but it will get here. So it's a great place to go meet with a lot of different vendors and learn about great products and services for your home or your garden or your yard. And so go check that out. It's cheap to get into. Eccles Ice Arena, lots of parking, easy to get into, in and out of. And it'll be Friday and Saturday this weekend. Reporting and checking in on what's going on with Utah State football. And Jason Walker, he's up at Maverick Stadium watching what's going on with the football team. Jason, it's nice to have some football outside again.
Yeah, it is, and I'll tell you what, I walked into the stadium, there's still snow on a bunch of the benches, although I think part of that is because they've stacked a bunch of dirt on these, on the east side, east and south side. So there's still a lot of snow in the stadium, even down below where I'm sitting, there's snow in the stands, so you wouldn't think that spring is coming based on what I'm seeing here, but you would think it's also happening because of what I'm seeing on the field. So I'm getting mixed messages on whether or not spring is actually a thing in Cache Valley.
Well, I understand, too, they've been doing some renovations on the south end zone, and maybe that's what are you observing with what's going on there, too?
Yeah, well, all the equipment's there. That's why there's dirt in some of the stands, which has led to the snow being able to stick a little more than maybe it normally would on these cement benches. But, yeah, they've got all the equipment. They're not doing much at the moment. Well, one of the machines is moving. they've been doing the work on and off. I'm not 100% what they're doing over there, what they're planning on putting in, but that work's been going on for quite a while. They've passed by it a handful of times and observed it during basketball season.
Well, we'll have to get the interim AD, Jerry Bovey, on to kind of explain what's going on there. Fill us in on those developments for sure. But what are you seeing today? I mean, this is the first chance to see this team in action for Utah State spring football. Yesterday they did practice, but it was indoor. Media were not allowed. Public was not allowed during the practice session. But today it's nice enough outside to have these practices on the field. And what are some of the early observations so far?
Well, just going through drill work right now, so I'm just trying to get a feel for some of the players. They've been going through individual drills. They're starting to slowly gather together. They started, like, each position group is doing their thing. Now on offense, they've got the quarterbacks and running backs were together. Now it's quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Offensive line still doing their own thing. But they're slowly coming together. I imagine they might get to some more maybe 11-on-11 drills. Hopefully, I'm trying to see if I can establish some kind of depth chart. Or at the very least, at this point, I'm just counting all the players and comparing it to the roster just to see who's present at the moment.
Yeah, that seems to be the early thing to be noticing in this football team is who is and isn't available as spring practices get underway, because there were some notable absences that we talked about yesterday when they released the roster for spring football. But it's interesting to see what's going on today. I know it's open to the public, but are there many from the public who are there watching the football team?
Yeah, there's about 10, 20 people here sitting around me. Just scattered, some students, some older people. Just observing, just enjoying the almost good weather. We'll just call it football weather.
Football weather in March. Yes, it's very appropriate.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about yesterday is transfer portal affecting college basketball, whether Utah State might see some players leave or not, and if the Coach Odom and his staff should pursue any particular types of players for his team. But one team that we talked about and kind of focused on was Wyoming, the Cowboys. Yeah, it sounded like yesterday it was Xavier Ducell who was announcing that he was going into the portal. And today we learned that kind of the last domino to fall, and that's Graham Ike, as he has entered the transfer portal today, and should be one of very sought-after big man from the Wyoming Cowboys.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted because I was writing something down. We were talking about Graham Ike, right?
Yes, Graham Ike making it known today. He's in the portal.
Yeah, and that's just really, like, Wyoming may go down as one of the all-time just collapses. And unlike some of the other famous collapses, it's hard to really pin any of it specifically on Wyoming. As far as, like, just saying, is there somebody who did something wrong for it to have gone this badly? And I don't think the answer is, like, just crap happened. And it ended up ruining what could have been one of the better teams we've had in the Mountain West over the last probably 5-6 years. And now it's basically set Wyoming back probably 2 or 3 years unless they can find a way to do a quick rebuild through the transfer portal to replace all the guys who went to the portal.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of positions to be filled. He's got a lot of scholarships to hand out. I think he's got like 9 scholarship positions that are open.
I think it's 9 or 10.
This might be 10, actually. You're right. So that blows my mind. A team that went to the NCAA tournament last year, had expectations as being the top team in the conference coming into the season, and just see an utter collapse and an utter exodus like we have seen at the end of the season. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, it kind of goes down as one of the greatest collapses because they were supposed to be arguably the best team, and they're just not. And they just weren't. Yeah.
No, and I think we were joking earlier in the day. If this were to happen to a couple other teams in the Mountain West, we'd probably be like gleeful and and just revel in their pain. But for some reason, I really feel bad for Wyoming.
Yeah, I know. We at least around Utah State, we tend to focus. We'd have been more gleeful. It happened to Boise State, San Diego State. But yeah, you're spot on. Where Wyoming's one of those teams that nobody really hates, and I was kind of happy. Obviously, it was frustrating to see the Aggies play Graham Ike and struggle to guard him. But you feel good that Wyoming, they were going to have their banner year. They were going to have their time in the sun, at least for another year. Obviously, they were good, before this most recent year. But, it was supposed to be even better than that year. And so it's frustrating to see that, because you can almost maybe imagine what it's like to be, this close to greatness and to just have it fall apart. Not because of some failure on the field or because somebody screwed up, because then at least you kind of understand. But now it's just all you can do is shake your fist at the heavens and just say, oh, what great basketball we have lost, just because of stupid, dumb, bad luck.
Yeah, I mean, a combination of injuries. Sure, there's probably some players that felt like they maybe had some expectation of doing more than what they were given the opportunity to do. On top of that, Coach Linder, his father was ill and eventually did pass away during the course of the season, and that can be very draining and distracting. So I feel really, really bad for what's gone on in Wyoming, and this is going to be a real test of Coach Linder and what remains of his coaching staff, because he did lose an assistant as well. Besides just all the players, he lost an assistant. Just to see what they do to try to recover from this will be one of the big storylines of next season throughout the Mountain West Conference.
Well, at this point, it's kind of one of the skills you have to have as a head coach. Usually you're not supposed to have to display it in the middle of your tenure as a coach, but it's just the ability to take a destroyed roster and turn it into something where you can salvage the next season, may develop toward 2 years down the road. So, usually a coach will have to come in and do that. Ideally, you'll build up a program to where it won't happen to you in, like I said, in the middle of your tenure, but it's a skill that coaches and their staff need to have, the ability to, all right, disaster has struck, let's find a way to get out of it somehow.
Yeah, this is looking at Graham Ike specifically. I would imagine this has got to be one of the more sought-after players in the transfer portal. 6'9", averaged nearly a 20 and 10, 19.5 points, 9.6 rebounds in the last full season in which he played. That was in 2021-2022 season, and he's not necessarily a back-to-the-basket kind of a guy, but he is a definite menace in the paint.
Well, I would contend that he is very much a back-to-the-basket guy. The most recent year where he was playing, 2021-22, he led the country in post-up attempts. The next closest player had like 120 fewer post-up attempts. So he's very much a post-up guy. And his efficiency is really good. It's not as good as some of the elites, but some of that is just volume. You do more. He's taking tougher shots out of the post. So he really is a menace. He's almost unstoppable, especially the way the Mountain West calls fouls, to where you either have to let him take his shot or foul him. That's basically your two options, or just pray that he misses. Yeah, he'll be sought after. He can go to pretty much any school he wants. I know a lot of Aggie fans are immediately saying, go get him, especially because the Aggies could use another power forward. Maybe he can kind of be a small ball center. But unfortunately, Utah State's probably not the level of school that EK knows he can get to.
Yeah, I'd imagine his services will be sought after from a variety of power conferences, the teams in power conferences. And I think that it would be great if he came to a place like Utah State, but I think that he would have his sights set on higher targets and would likely get them.
Yeah, and he would fit in well with Utah State. He'd complement the backcourt that Utah State's going to put together. It'd give Utah State a weapon, underneath, whereas they've just kind of been passable with their options down low. Dan Atkin, could score, but he didn't create for himself. EK creates for himself, and so it goes from a guy who can catch a dump-off pass and dunk it to a guy who can also catch a dump-off pass and dunk it, but he can also take it from the post and then score. That just makes your offense all that much better because it's another guy you have to constantly focus on. And it would free up Ashworth and Shulga and some of the other players Utah State will have out there who are going to be good shooters. So it'd be a perfect fit in a lot of ways. Or at least a really good fit. I don't know if a perfect fit, but it's a really good fit. But as you said, unfortunately, it's a little too good to be true.
Yeah, the spacing that would create in the floor. Where would you focus on your defense? If you try to take away the perimeter, then your interior is going to eat you alive. And if you try to focus on the paint, the guys on the outside are going to drain threes on you all night long. So that would be a nightmare defensive assignment for a lot of teams that the Aggies would have to face.
Yeah, your focus would be on your prayers. That's what you would do. That's about as good as you could do.
That's great. So coming up here next to the Full Court Press, taking a quick timeout. Love to get your thoughts, Jason, about the Utah Jazz. Didn't get a chance to get your thoughts about the team last night after you left early for practice, and Jazz picked up another big win against a top team, one of the top teams in the NBA last night. And to get your comments on that, also continue to get your observations about what's going on with Utah State football. So stick around if you can. We'll take a quick timeout. Invite our audience as well. If you want to chime in, love to get your thoughts about potential targets. What type, maybe not specific player, but type of player that Ryan Odom should be looking for in the transfer portal, or about the Utah Jazz and how they may finish out the regular season. Love to get your thoughts on that. 435-339-0321.
Copiers, printers, service, and supplies are just the beginning. Les Olson IT is the premier source for your business's structured cabling, IT, software, telephones, and security systems. We partner with you to find the ideal solution to all of your office technology needs. Tell us your goals and we'll get you there. Find out more at lesolson.com.
Les Olson IT.
The new Prodigy Brewing on Center Street in Logan offers an atmosphere that's vibrant, energetic, and friendly. Serving handmade juicy burgers, wood-fired pizzas, wings, nachos, and locally crafted beer while bringing a unique space to downtown Logan. Now offering lighter lunch options like personal-sized pizzas and sliders, or choose from your favorites like wings, beer cheese, fried pickles, and more. Stop by for a quick and delicious lunch that will get you back to work on time. Experience Prodigy Brewing, exceptional food, extraordinary service, and family-friendly on Center Street in downtown Logan.
Bull Moose RV is hosting a grand opening and RV show at their new location. Stop by Friday and Saturday, March 24th and 25th at 1850 North, 600 West in North Logan. They'll have dozens of units on display under one roof with food trucks on hand. Plus, you can talk to their service and sales teams about what you need for your RVing this summer. That's Bull Moose RV's grand opening and RV show this Friday and Saturday. Listen for a live radio broadcast both days. Find them online at bullmooseRV.com.
It's time to vote in the Best of Northern Utah contest.
Best of Northern Utah.
Reward your favorite businesses in Northern Utah by casting your vote at bestofnorthernutah.com. You can vote once per day, every day through March 29th.
Best of Northern Utah.
This is the contest every business hopes to win. So vote now and let your voice be heard. Go to bestofnorthernutah.com and vote now.
Best of Northern Utah.
Nothing beats March Madness. The pure sound of a swish, the rattle of a slam dunk, the fans on their feet for the big moments. And the action just keeps getting better until a national champion is crowned. Hear all the action with Westwood One's exclusive coverage of this year's NCAA tournament, right here.
Catch all the action of March Madness on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, online at 1069thefan.com or the Fan mobile app.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Hey, join us this Saturday at Bull Moose RV. It's their grand opening at 1850 North, 600 West. Live broadcast will be taking place Saturday from 10 to 1. There'll be food trucks on hand, sales staff there to answer any questions you might have about type of RVs they have in stock. Get a jump on your summer by visiting during their grand opening. It's a Bull Moose RV, 1850 North, 600 West. We'll be having a live broadcast there on Saturday. And speaking of what's going on live, Jason Walker, he's live at Utah State football practice this afternoon. Outside, there was sunshine earlier. It's kind of overcast now, but at least they're outside. And and it's open to the public, so people can stop by and check it out until about 6 o'clock tonight. And what are some of your observations so far, Jason, with what this football team looks like early on?
Well, there's not a ton of observations you can get from drill work. I think the one observation is, I don't know if Josh Sturzer is here today. He's on the roster, but I didn't see him dressed. That's about the only concrete thing I can tell you. But certainly a lot of players out here. Slowly building up, trying to figure out who's where on the depth chart. As much of a depth chart as you can form in spring ball. I don't think the coaches have settled on one yet, but just trying to get a sense of who's here. I'll probably figure out who wasn't here when I go home and double check all the numbers. But who's here, who's where on the depth chart early on, and maybe I can try and gauge certain players' speed or athleticism, but even then, I'm not much of a scout, so I'll come away with some very basic observations at the end of today. Only so much you can learn after your first observation.
Yeah, I mean, these early goings, it's just getting guys up to speed physically, introducing some concepts, just seeing what they've learned in their film study or looking at the playbook. And just kind of seeing physically what tools you have to work with early on. And now their first real public scrimmage isn't until a couple more weeks away. So it's still going to be kind of situational drill type stuff from the early goings, just getting guys back into football shape.
Yeah, they'll probably, I think they've just ended their kind of first little session. They were going through position drills, throwing, running, catching, whatnot. They might start going in. They might just go back to doing more drills. It might just be a break, but they might start running some 11-on-11s. The defense briefly was doing a drill where all 11 of them were lined up in the formation, but it was mostly a pursuit drill, so it wasn't really a live rep. It was sprint after the running back who's going around the edge.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, practice going on today until 6 o'clock. They'll have another practice. Depending on the weather, could be open, maybe not. It's going to be on Thursday, or is it tomorrow? I can't remember.
It's Thursday.
Gotcha.
It'll be Thursday. So they'll get a one-day break, and then they'll do a Thursday indoor-outdoor. It's about a half and half chance of rain or snow or something, some kind of precipitation on Thursday.
With that. Let's shift gears a little bit, talking about the Utah Jazz. They had a big win last night, big win a couple nights ago over the Boston Celtics. This team refuses to go quietly into the night and to be just a lottery team. They continue to play really tough despite having some of their stars out of these games. What do you see going on with this Utah Jazz team lately?
Well, you just see a team that has a lot of fight. These are young players who were, making their mark, and it's interesting because you think of that, of any young team. You look at the Magic, the Thunder, the Rockets, even Charlotte to some degree, where you think, okay, they're young, but they're going to fight. But the thing is, the Jazz are winning. The Thunder actually are about the same record as the Jazz, but they've been doing this for longer.
Yeah.
And they've also got, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But, the Magic, they're not winning, even though they have super talented young players. The Pistons have some young talented players, and so the Hornets and some of these other teams, they have these super young talented players, but they're not winning. The Jazz have these young talented players, and they are winning. And so it's kind of an interesting thing where we all expected this team to lose with the young talent, but they're not losing. And so it's both a good and a bad thing. Good in that these kids are for real. They will contribute to winning in a big way. and then negative for those who are really hoping for that really high draft position.
Only a couple of weeks left in the regular season. Jazz currently in the 10th position, but they play most of the remaining schedule is against teams either in the playoffs or in the playoff hunt. This is not going to be an easy finish for the Utah Jazz. They have Portland coming up on Wednesday, who's not technically out of it, but they kind of are. I mean, they've lost 6 in a row, and they're several games behind the Jazz. But after that, it's just one playoff team or team in pursuit of the playoffs after another. I was predicting last night maybe the Jazz get 5 wins with the remaining 12, but maybe I'm being way too conservative.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, because you say they were going to go up and play a bunch of playoff teams, but they just played 2 playoff teams.
Yeah, they were the best.
Yeah, so it's just kind of interesting. And sometimes, I mean, of course, this Jazz team was also the one that helped the Spurs end a 19-game losing streak or something to that effect.
Yeah,
so
true.
Some nights they're just going to play with the best. That's the way the NBA is. The worst team can be the best team on any given night, more so than any collegiate league. So, well, I guess I shouldn't say that too soon after Farley Dickinson beat Purdue, but it seems more true in the NBA that the bad teams can beat the good teams and vice versa. But yeah, maybe the Jazz keep it up. Danny Ainge and the medical staff seem determined to find new and inventive ways of keeping the Jazz's best players on the bench, but it's somehow not working.
Yeah, you have guys like Ochai Agbaji have a career night, and oh gosh, now his name has escaped me. Udoka Azubuike have a career night for the Jazz. Guys that you wouldn't really suspect come in and have these great nights. Simone Fontecchio gives you a double-digit scoring output. So they just keep finding ways to develop these young guys. These, I don't want to necessarily call them no-name players, but outside of Utah, they're no-name players. And instill some confidence and a game plan that gives them opportunity to succeed and play meaningful basketball.
Yeah, that's something I'd kind of gone over early in the season, where I said it was a benefit for these young players to be, playing meaningful basketball. And they still kind of are. They may end up missing the playoffs, but they're in a real playoff chase, and it's to their benefit that instead of playing these last 10 or so games, and that literally means nothing if you're like the 17 win Rocket team. I don't know how many wins they have, I'm just guessing. But, for them it's meaningless, and it's just about, okay, let's just go get reps. It's basically practice, let's go get our heads slammed in by the next really good team.
Yes.
For the Jazz, they're out there competing in real meaningful minutes in places where you can learn. Like, how much are you really learning after you lose another game by 17 points? But if you go in and you win a game by 1 or lose a game by 2, then it's like, all right, we can examine clutch minutes and you can see what you did wrong. You also get an experience for what those clutch situations are like, because you feel differently in those clutch situations, and you got to learn to perform when you're in a different mindset, when the nerves start getting to you. You got to learn to perform even when that happens, and some young players don't get to experience that in their first year because they're not playing meaningful basketball.
Right. They're playing a lot of minutes, but they're in games that don't matter and they're non-competitive. Where this Utah Jazz team is playing young guys in meaningful minutes, in clutch situations, pressure situations, getting them the opportunity to play through that and learn what it means to maybe win a game, or if you just lose out on a game, at least it's competitive and you're in it. Utah has not really been blown out very many times this year. They've been pretty competitive in about every game that they've played. And with young players, you do enough of that, they finally figure out how to break through and win more of those games than they lose.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a balance, because we're talking about, all right, what do these games mean? And we've just gone over what do these games mean, like what impact they can have down the road. And you balance that, like what's the value of developing these guys in these situations? There clearly is value, but the give and take of this is, all right, instead of picking, 7th, 8th, you end up picking 11th, 12th. That's the debate that a lot of fans are having among themselves. Is it worth losing 3-4 spots of draft position to develop Walker Kessler, Ochai Agbaji, and others? Yeah. And that's something we probably can't answer at this point. Maybe if Agbaji turns into an all-star and Kessler turns into a defensive player of the year, maybe we say, yeah, it probably was worth it. And if the Jazz managed to draft somebody at 10, 11, 12, who ends up being an all-star, maybe it ends up being worth it. Or maybe it doesn't end up being worth it because the guy you picked at 12 turns out to be a bust, and the guy you could have picked at 8 turns out to be the next Kobe Bryant or something. I don't know. It's something it's hard to question, whether or not this is actually worth it. It's something we won't know until 3, 4, 5 years down the line.
Another quick timeout, Jason. We've got some texts coming through, and I'd love to have you on to answer them if you can. But hang tight with us. We got a quick timeout. We'll get to your texts coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Believe it or not, spring is coming. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. We want to offer you a spring deal on washers and dryers. Buy a new washer and get $25 off the dryer. Or choose a scratch and dent dryer to save more money and get $75 off. Don't forget, Daryl's offers an exclusive 2-year warranty on all scratch and dent appliances. Why pay full price when you can save at Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road?
See Daryl's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat is locally owned and operated inside the beautiful new Three Peaks Medical Plaza in North Logan. Expect the most cutting-edge techniques, qualified doctors, and friendly staff to ensure the highest quality patient care. The ENT providers have extensive training to properly treat ear, nose, and throat conditions for adults and children. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat serves all of northern Utah and southern Idaho, accepting most insurance products including SelectMed. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for appointments and details. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, located in North Logan and Providence.
As a small business, achieving your financial goals and ambitions can be a steep and rocky mountain to climb. This is Brent Wallace of Cache Valley Bank. To conquer this mountain and achieve your goals, it takes planning, hard work, and discipline. At Cache Valley Bank, we have the resources, expertise, and flexibility to help you scale your way to success. Give us a call. Let's work together and climb the mountains that await. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
If you need a new battery or wiper blades, check out your locally owned Napa Auto Parts. They'll make sure to get you the right size, even help you install it. 5 locations between Preston and Providence. That's Napa Auto Parts. A couple of texts coming through here on the Full Court Press. Want to get some of these and give Jason a chance to weigh in. 6543 asking, what's your opinion on what happened to 75% of the Mountain West teams in the NCAA, and how do you think San Diego State will do against Alabama?
Well, I think, when you look at the Mountain West NCAA tournament, you had a 10-seed lose, a 10-seed lose, and an 11-seed. I mean, they got blown out in an 11v11. So overall, you'd have to say that based on seeding, Utah that the Mountain West performed about to expectations. If you dig a little bit deeper, then they have, I would say, slightly underperformed. Because Utah State was actually favored by Vegas odds over Missouri. So in that sense, you probably should have had 2 teams win. Maybe 3 if Nevada, plays a little bit better. But I wasn't too surprised that they underperformed. I was surprised they got blown the heck out, but I wasn't too surprised they lost. And I wasn't too surprised that Boise State lost either. The Utah State loss surprised me a little bit. And that's the only area where I'd say you could say the Mountain West underperformed. Is the Utah State probably should have won that Missouri game. San Diego State was supposed to win their game. They were probably supposed to, they're supposed to face a 4-seed Virginia who's nominally slightly better. But San Diego State making the Sweet 16 was certainly a possibility and borderline expectation. So they've kind of met / partially exceeded their expectations. Everyone else either was about as expected or very slightly underperformed. So I wouldn't call this a failure on the Mountain West. It just looks bad again that only one of their 4 teams won a single game in the tournament.
Yeah, they were all, except San Diego State, the lower seeds, and by chalk should have lost, and they did, except for Nevada, which should have been about a push, but they did not look very good at all. So that's if anybody had a bad look, it's Nevada. But against Alabama, I don't know. I mean, Aztecs will their defense will give them a chance, but that Alabama team is very well rounded, and they should be able to take care of the Aztecs, I would think.
Yeah, Alabama's a really good team. They got a really good offense and at least one elite, top 3 draft pick, a guy who's going to be fighting to be the number 2 overall pick in the draft. As good as San Diego State's defense is, when a good defense faces a team just completely chock full of great offensive players, sometimes it just doesn't matter how good your defense is. Because a great defense, they're able to pick and choose what they give up. They give up things they can live with. And there's nothing they can give up and live with against these really, really good offenses.
That's going to about do it for us this hour. We'll stick around. We've got more coming up on the Full Court Press with more comments from Coach Blake Anderson about some of his coaching staff changes, his personal changes and responsibilities, players in different roles. We'll dive into a lot more detail as spring football underway at Utah State, and practices are open to the public as Utah State's on the field, on Merlin Olsen Field, for about another hour if you want to stop by and check it out. Stick around. More on that coming up next on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Cam Newton's one of the more accomplished quarterbacks we've seen over the last decade. He won a Heisman Trophy and a national championship at Auburn, was drafted number 1 overall by the Panthers in 2011, led Carolina to a Super Bowl appearance, even won an MVP. Despite the successful track record, he hasn't played since 2021. But the once dominant quarterback is currently trying to change that. He announced plans to throw today at Auburn's Pro Day. He's a unique talent, and he's only 33. But it's been an extended absence from the game, so we should temper our expectations. Could Newton get a chance with a quarterback star franchise? Maybe, but when you start to look at the landscape of the league, and everybody wants a young quarterback, taking into account Cam Newton's recent body of work, well, the days of Superman dominating the NFL may officially be behind us. But he gets a pro day today, and it might be his last chance to show he can still play in the NFL. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.